The broadcast is live. You know, it doesn't say that. Doesn't say the broadcast is live when you're the host. It says something different.
I never noticed. I just let you say it. I quit reading.
I know. I say it because it pops up on the screen. Well, when I was doing it last week, it doesn't. It says like you are now live or something like that. It doesn't say the broadcast is live. I was like, oh, I never knew Tim didn't see that when I said it.
It's a week later for doing the show on your channel, and you're drunk with power still. I can tell. I see it.
And knowing is half the battle.
So here we are, January 8th, 2021. And if you look at us, Paolo is the one that's shown it most of us, but we might as well be living in the movie The Thing with the freaking weather. How cold it is.
I was thinking 2020 didn't sound like a real year. You know, it sounded like fiction. Like 2020 is the year in some science fiction novel. 2021 doesn't sound any more real.
Do you remember the song in the year 2525?
Yeah, it's like that.
Yeah, I got to get way up there. 2112, to me, that's a science fiction number for me. 2112 is, you know, yeah.
Well, I can't wait for 2047 because that's the year that we finally arrive in the future of Captain Power, and all of humanity will have been defeated and digitized by the forces of Lord Dread.
Well,
I just want to point out that Scott flashed the devil horns for Rush.
Damn right.
We all want to be digitized by 2047.
I have never, I mean, I've made it clear. I respect the band and I respect the fans and what they've accomplished.
Don't
and
you go blaspheming in here.
No, I'm not, man. You're missing what I'm saying.
Right.
I'm making sure that you know that I'm not a poser when it comes to Rush. I'm not going to sit here. You know what I mean? But closer to the heart and Snowbiter and see, this is what I'm saying. I can name like 5 to 10 songs that I love by them.
And one of the ones you just named you got all wrong, but that's
yeah. Which is why I'm saying I don't claim to be anything. But I wish I could love Rush. I wished I could. But I watched my first episode and probably my last episode of Trailer Park Boys after people tried to tell me to do it, and it was the Rush episode. And I tell you, man, I'm not going to lie. By the end of it, I was a little misty. You know.
Do you know the guy that plays Bubbles on that show?
I saw one interview where he's not in character. Okay?
I used to work with a guy that looks a hell of a lot like Bubbles.
Well,
it's scary how much he looks like him.
I went to school and I got 2 clients from a social worker that looked like Bubbles. So, yeah. That's what I mean. I was on a whole other level seeing this. You know, I actually had people that I'm like, can you imagine their dream coming true where they're just hanging out in a trailer park parking lot playing Closer to the Heart with the guitar player from Rush? You know, I felt it. You know,
Closer to the Heart is Yes.
No, Closer to the Heart is Rush.
Close to the Heart is Rush.
Okay, Jared, you've been demoted. You're going down.
Give me your rock card. Hand your rock card over.
You know what's funny? Closer to the Heart just showed up in one of my playlists. Yeah, I'm not a big Rush fan, but I like about 5 Rush songs, and about 3 of them are in my playlist. What was I confused? What's the Closer song from Yes? I don't know. I'm a much bigger Yes fan than I am a Rush song.
You might have been thinking about Owner of a Lonely Heart, maybe.
That could have been it. I don't think I was thinking. I was thinking some. It doesn't matter.
Now, Yes was all over the place when I was growing up with my stepdad's friends and all them, and it was the album covers. And
Roger Dean.
And then when I would see them playing old 70s videos, I guess from TV shows or whatnot, those guys scared me. Some of them guys were ugly. I mean, I'm not being mean. As a little kid, I would see Yes, and you had that one guy doing the chicken neck while he was playing. They all thought they were tripping out, and I'm like, I couldn't handle it. Freaked me out.
Wasn't there a lot of long hair and sideburns and mutton chops and things with Yes in the early 70s?
Yeah, if it wasn't for Yes, there wouldn't have been a Rush. And I actually saw them do Roundabout.
Yeah.
You know that Vangelis? Vangelis, the guy who did the soundtrack to Blade Runner, right. He refused becoming a keyboard player for Yes.
He might have made the right move, man, because like the soundtrack for Blade Runner is a classic. I mean, I listen to it consistently all the time, man. So yeah.
Do you know which one is not a classic? the soundtrack for Lady Hawk. Great movie, terrible soundtrack.
I've never been a soundtrack person.
The soundtrack was done by Allison Parsons Project, which I have no problems with that, but
they're favorite of
that soundtrack is terrible.
Yeah, I don't know that one at all.
Not good.
The Alan Parsons Project, I have dodged them since like 81 or whatever when I was a kid.
I love the Alan Parsons Project.
One of the Parsons Project songs Mike Kaluta did some of the animation for.
No.
So who wants to see some comics?
We'll do a roundabout here.
I see what you did there.
Mountains come out of the sky, and they stand there. First, I'll show you this pretty cool freebie. Eternals #1 came out with its 75 million covers. I didn't pick it up, of course, because I don't care about Eternals #1. But this was the freebie, and it's got the pencils in it, which are really fun to look at. It's got like, I don't know how many pages here, 10, 12 pages of pencils.
See, I'd rather look at some of that stuff than the actual comic. I'm serious.
I agree. Sometimes the pencils look better than the inked art.
Especially since, and they're by, what's his name? Eric or Ezad Ribic. And I was trying to figure out if they were digital or not. Because some of it looks digital. Because it's so clean, especially. And some of it doesn't. So I was like,
it might be nowadays. Ever since they made the pencilers scan their own work, I think most of them went to straight to digital because it's cheaper than having than penciling and then scanning.
I think
some of it here is grayscale. It's like black and white and gray. There's lots of gray in it, and some of it is just straight up pencil-like. But the pencil is so neat. It leads me to believe that it's digital, and this is just the neat layer of penciling. There's sub-layers underneath it.
Well, I can't remember if I mentioned it here or not, but Joe Rubenstein blew me away. I think it was him. But I got some of those old school guys that you just don't hear about, but they're still out there doing stuff, right? On Facebook, and he was sitting there like, "Well, I'm going old school," and that means he was using pencil and pen and ink. And I was like, "What?" So I don't know.
Then what's weird is there are sections where like it looks like he filled in the blacks with the side of a pencil, like this guy right here. And you can see all the pencil marks from scribbling in the blacks.
That's supposed to be Zuras. I think that was the guy's name. I got
it's kind of weird that that's there. Like that leads me to believe it's not digital. Because if it's digital, why would you scribble in the pencil mark? So I don't know what it is. It's weird. Half of it looks digital, half of it looks like pencil, but it all looks pretty nice. It's pretty neat and it's just a freebie giveaway. So it's cool to get a freebie giveaway that you can actually look through and see cool things in, as opposed to ads.
Well, I heard that Eternals book is supposed to be some kind of Eternals reboot or something, and I'm like, yeah, right. Who knows?
Who's writing it? Guy I like his indie work. I've read. What's his name? Kieran Gillen is writing it. Wicked and the Divine, Uber. I really like his writing, but I just have no interest in him writing the Eternals.
I thought he was done with Marvel because I don't think he's written anything for them in the last couple of years.
Yeah, I haven't seen his name on a Marvel book, and I don't know since when. Did he write Young Avengers? Was that him and Jamie McKelvey?
I don't know. I got the first issue and sold it when it came out, man. Then I found one at a flea market.
I only have the original series.
I had the oversized hardcover that I got for dirt cheap. I think I ended up selling that too a few years ago.
Well, speaking of that, I found a guy on eBay who's having a penny sale on trades, and I got something like, I think 7 or 8 trade paperbacks for $10, and they're supposed to be here by Monday. And one is a hardback book of The Art of Vampire Hunter D. So Anyway, go ahead, man. Sorry, you just
It's
reminded me.
crazy how cheap you can find trades for. The problem is most of them are crappy, but that's comics and I mean that's just the law of averages.
Yeah.
Because that's what I found back in my cheap trade days is you can find trades. You can get a trade for like $, for like the price of one comic.
Yeah.
But then you really can't. You're not really getting the best trades out there, and I ended up with like stacks of trades that I didn't even like. I'm like, now what do I do?
One was my Starman Omnibus that I got hardback. That one made me mad. It was brand new, and the guy just put it in an envelope, no anything, a gigantic manila envelope, and sent it that way. And they rammed it in my Anyway, you're bringing it up on the card. Well, let me tell you something I got real quick. After I said that December was over and I ended up going out and paying some bills, I walked into Ollie's and got this for $4. It's a little hardback, of course, as you can see, Planet of the Apes, but it's all the. Am I going out? You guys went out on me.
You're breaking up on it.
All right. Anyway, see if I can move forward. Anyway, it's a little hardback book, and the dust cover is cool because it's made out of the same paper that they wrap the cards in, that little waxy film.
Gotcha.
But it's all the cards from 66. Each one gets a page. And when you turn the page, you see the back of the card. They put the bubble gum on the cover and then the busted up bubble gum. I've seen both. And it's also got the TV show with Starsky and Hutch. They had more trading cards than they did for the movie. And then they had the Tim Burton, and I have that set. Am I still breaking up?
No,
you're okay.
Yeah. So, but it's really cool. They show the card, and then they show the back of the card for the one before it. Right. So it's kind of like you're flipping through them, and then they got all this other stuff in the back, promotional stuff. And I just dropped out of there, but you get 4 exclusive cards with this if you're in the trading. Cool.
Topps has a couple of similar books like that for the original Star Trek series and Mars Attacks as well.
Well, let me show you, since I was actually going to mention that. So, but in the back of it, I don't know if it'll show up, but they give you a list of books that Topps has done.
Right.
Wacky packs and all that stuff. Star Wars, Return of the Jedi, Mars Attacks, Garbage Pail Kids. That's the one I want. The Wicked Joe card. But here's the exclusive cards that came with the pack. I haven't opened them. So. Back at you, Jared. Back at you. So.
Let's see. I got issue 3 of Crossover.
I was telling one of my buddies about that last night.
It was good. I've been enjoying this one. We had some. It was funny. We had some superheroes show up in this one. That guy over there is. Who are there are superheroes from other Dark Horse books. So it's like who are the Paybacks, I think, are in here. I never read the book. Matter of fact, they make a joke on it. They're like the Paybacks. Like, who are you? Like, no one read our book. Don't worry about it. Because in this one, the basic story is that. All these fictional characters cross over to our world, and they all crossed over in Colorado. I think it was Denver, and of course it caused all sorts of chaos in our world. And we found out in this one we started to bomb the city, so they put up a dome over the city. So now no one has any idea what's going on inside the dome. But like Batman's there, Superman's there, all those people are supposed to be there. And they even show. Do you remember that that Dave Sim issue of Spawn? Like that. Matter of fact, I think Dave Sim just did the one you were looking at the Kickstarter of, where
it's Spawn number 2. Yeah,
and they had that like opening splash panel where you see all the locked up superheroes, and you can tell who they are. They did the same sort of thing in issue 2 of this, where because some of the superheroes got out and were captured, and some of them, like you can see, like Batman's hand or other people, and so they're all captured by the authorities of our Earth, and so they said some of them are cooperating because they want to get home as much as we want to get rid of them. But meanwhile, it shows this our two main characters. Actually, there's four main characters now. There's a young teen girl who works in a comic shop. There's the owner of the comic shop, who's an older guy. There's this guy who's the son of a reverend who burnt down the comic shop, but he didn't mean to. And there's this little girl who's one of the people from the other world, and you can tell because they have printer's dots all over their face. They have moire patterns on their face. That's how you can tell the four-color people from the people in our world. And they're trying to get back into the dome this issue when these superheroes show up. And I'm going to spoil the last page for you because it's just someone showing. Because all along she made this little sketch of who she said was in the dome, and they led you to believe it was Superman who was in the dome, but it turns out
Madman.
It was Mike Allred's Madman. He shows up at the end of this one.
Interesting.
Well,
So we're gonna he's in our world too.
that's it. I mean, he that did it. I was going to
That's
wait
why I
for the
want to
trade.
spoil it for you so the
Yeah.
Madman fans know to go and get crossover.
Since they're inside a dome, is Pauly Shore there?
We don't know because we're not inside the dome. There we go. He's got his Madman
I mean,
toy.
I always have it on hand.
Paolo, you know how there are some words that should never be uttered? Those are the two. Yeah.
Don't
You
make
know,
me
that,
look
you know
at
that my name translates as Pauly Shore.
my- It does not. Oh my God, it does.
Costa's the coach.
Then we need to chant. Oh, God.
Another celebrity on the show. Who knew? You've aged well. You look better now than you did back then.
Your
The
IQ
Weasel.
went up about 90 points, too.
Well, his new nickname is now going to be the Weasel. And what with his
No,
he's
there's
got his
no
part-
weasel here.
Hey,
We have a
bud.
strict no weasel policy here.
I can be a mink.
The mink. Oh, I love it. I love it. The mink.
Oh,
That sounds
sure,
like
then when they start-
that sounds like a very
then when they
obscure
start-
character that Alex Toth did for like 3 issues.
Well, no, I like how it bounces off my name, Hallermouse and the Mink. It's like it's meant to be.
we're going to start calling them the minks after that. It's inevitable.
The mink was the Batman stand-in in Brad Pack.
Ah, gotcha.
Oh, okay.
I like how the best thing that happened in 2020, 2021 happened right now, just now. That was awesome.
We call him Mink Floyd.
Okay. Something I got off of, I went ahead and got this because it's a Criterion collection. And
Okay.
you never know with these. There's 3 movies. I did a little live show showing a haul video, and I had some backup on this. But like, there's 3 Criterion movies that once they're out of print, they sell for like $100 a piece. A DVD.
Right.
Follow me, okay?
Uh-huh.
So I think the Blu-ray of the Crumb documentary came out through Criterion Collection, so I scarfed up the DVD. Before the show, I just put up my 2 VHS tapes of this that I've been watching since the 90s. But this is something that, even though it's Crumb and it's Underground Comics and all that stuff, and it's about him, I think, have y'all seen this? Because it gets about his family life, and they start going in a different
It
direction.
is so good.
I haven't seen it.
It's one of I don't know. It's one of the most honest documentaries. Of course, once you're getting filmed, you're not going to be yourself. You change all the stuff. But there's a lot of stuff in here. And Crumb actually started getting counseling for himself after he watched this.
Well, you learn Crumb is the same one in his family, and it's a wonder that he survived, let alone ever became a famous artist.
Yeah, I'm the guy that says, in my opinion, it was his art that saved him, where he was constantly drawing. He got all that stuff out. His brothers are nuts, and they show them in here, and they're pitiful. They're pitiful. Yeah.
And his older brother was a good artist, too.
He was the real artist of the family. That's what's
But he
wild.
stopped. Well, that is, I always said, that often happens with artists, and you see this a lot when you go to art school, is that sometimes the artists that are the most naturally gifted, when they get to art school, that's when they start to fall off.
Yeah.
And if they even can graduate, once they graduate, they stop doing art. because they have such natural gifts that it's easy for them. But what's easy for you when you're 17 isn't the same when you're 25 and everyone else has been putting in the work. And all of a sudden, you're not the most talented guy anymore. And it's an ego blow. And if they kept up with their talent and they kept working, they'll be one of the most talented guys, but they weren't interested in that. They did art because it came easy to them.
Well, what I liked in the documentary, the show What the Brother Was Doing, is they actually had his artwork where he was doing this when he was like 12. And and this was like in the 50s with some of the stuff he was doing.
Right.
But they sent off for that little thing where you draw a turtle or a panda or something.
School.
And well, they came to the house and they gave him a booklet to fill out, and like he had a cup, and he was supposed to draw a pattern on the cup. He drew an arm of a dead man and a leg hanging out of it and stuff like that. It was fantastic because this was the 50s. There is no internet to get on there and rip people off. You know what I mean? Like, hang on his head.
And also because I think it is if you their sister
all
refused
the
me,
sisters
right?
Yeah.
What also happens is with guys like that is when you're a good artist in high school, that gets you all sorts of attention. You become sort of the artist in your high school. You become that guy, and everybody wants you to draw and see your drawings. Once you graduate high school, and let's say you don't go off to art school or college, suddenly that praise isn't there anymore.
Yeah.
So you lose your reason to draw, which I think happened to his brother too, because he mentioned his brother just stopped drawing once he, hit his late teens, and that was probably it too.
Everything you're saying is that I have friends I was in art school with back in high school, and you've named off like 3 of them already. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Do some comments real quick before we show another book.
Okay.
Gretzky's here.
Yeah, I just put out my art supply video today, my second one of the week because I've been stocking up on art supplies.
I haven't
we're
watched
back
that
up.
one yet.
Oh yeah, okay. Nice. Is that the one where you had all the ink?
Unboxing.
You got all the colors of ink?
Yes, I got more. I got even more this time, right? And I went over how I use them and stuff like that.
What cracked me up is that we were at Hobby Lobby, and I almost bought a bunch of them. A bunch of different. I got 2 or 3 here and there, but I almost did the same. I thought that cracked me up, man. Dr. Silver Age, after over a month in the hospital, is alive and kicking and back, and I'm glad to see him here if he's still hanging out. I've seen the numbers have gone up and down, so we got people popping in and out. Gretzky?
Man.
I understand that. I used to have a roommate who played Rush all the time, gave me a headache. I can't listen to albums of Rush. No.
Stay Puff 83. I think he's the one that's been doing a little round table of his own there with different people from the comic community. So there's more out there. There's more people out there. Let me get down here. Comic Crack is here. Good to see him. Let me go up here. Friar Tuck is here.
Ollie's maybe in his future.
I need to grab the Ghost World Criterion. I still have the first DVD. I've got the DVD that came out right after the movie back in the day. I didn't know Criterion had picked up Ghost World.
One of the nicer sets that Criterion did was the Akira Kurosawa set.
I've read the comic many a time, but I think I've only seen the movie once of Ghost World. I have to go back and watch it again. I really like the comic. It's really good. I just reread it, I think, this past winter.
It does feel a little dated. We watched it about a year ago before we moved here. That's the only reason I remember. I thought it felt like of its era, if that makes sense. I mean, Yeah. Charles Crum had Jeff Sebesta here. I love his little avatar, man. I don't know what it is, but it's cool. It's very Von Bode-like, in my eyes. I mean, it's Crum. Like, keep on trucking.
Let me ask a question since you just brought that up, because I want to see if anybody else has the same idea that I have. So he's talking about Crum's brother had an interesting or amazing way of drawing trees. What artist in the comics field do you most associate with drawing trees?
Gerard. Sorry. Yeah.
Really? Okay.
What's his name? William Mesner Loeb's The Adventures of Wolverine Mcallister.
All right. Charles Band.
Charles Vest. Oh yeah, I can see that too.
Nobody draws a tree like Charles Vest does.
You said Charles Vest, and immediately one of his trees popped into my mind.
Yeah, I concede to that because it's what I've read. You know what I mean? Like going through my stuff. But
have you guys ever read The Adventures of Wolverine Mcallister?
No.
Nope.
It was an 80s in black and white indie. I think Aardvark Vanheim may have put it out.
Okay.
But William Mesner Loebs wrote and drew it, and Wolverine Mcallister was like a Canadian frontiersman.
Gotcha.
And I don't know what, the 1700s or something. So there was just trees everywhere. He was always just standing in the trees.
Now, I will say when it comes to an artist that I think about when they draw grass, Barry Windsor Smith. That sounds funny, but go look at some of his stuff. It's like he actually drew every blade of grass when a girl's laying in it, or you got this soldier going through it, walking through it. I'm like, wow.
You could say the same thing about Bernie's art when he drew grass in the Frankenstein graphic novel.
Those gnarled trees.
Yeah. What else you got, Jared?
We got the latest Usagi Yojimbo, where he takes on these yokai, which are these they're sort of they're these animals of Japanese folklore,
right?
And he's got an old master who is this, I forget what. There's a couple of different classes of these mythical creatures. And one of them actually trained Usagi years ago. He was one of Usagi's masters. Usagi trained with him for a few years.
He was a lion. Yeah.
A long nose. No, not him. That's his actual human master. Matter of fact, I have. Let me show you this. My friend gave it to me a while. You're talking about this guy.
Yep. Let's see
not this guy. This guy's a regular guy. It's
okay.
I like how we can talk about characters randomly, and somebody's going to stand up and go get a figure or a book. I mean, but what's great is that it's right there. Like watch this. Yeah.
It's this guy. Whoops, right here. Not the werewolf guy, but the other one. Usagi went to train with him just for like a year or so in his youth, and now he's run into him again. He's like some sort of folklore creature who lives in the woods. But now these other folklore creatures who live in the woods, these werewolf-like ones, are want to kill that guy and Usagi. So that's the latest. Always good, Yeah. I praise Usagi every time I get it. So
I agree.
I'm eyeballing some trades. I've got to pick up, and I might have a new obsession. And what's bad about this obsession is that I can think back years and years and years of finding this book or volumes of this book in back issue bins, and I did it in here and there. And then it's like recently, like over the last month, I've heard it mentioned. I've never heard anybody mention it since I've been on YouTube or talked about it in a video or anything. And then I found two really cheap, Mr. X.
Love Mr. X.
Yeah. So he's going to get something. Yeah,
I've got a Mr. X hardcover.
Yeah, that's why. That's why
I'm show you the out of print hardcover.
That's my next.
If that's the one I have or not. I can't remember.
I'm determined to get that. I think in my eBay haul I've got. It's not that one, but I found a Mr. X story from the 2000s or something. I don't know.
I have the original issues too, since I bought this one off the rack.
So this is from volume. I think this is from volume 1, and then this beat up one, which has the better story, is volume 2. And this is the one that kind of hooked me. I was like, holy shit! So I started doing a little research, and this thing has influenced Tim Burton. It influenced people that did Dark City, and I'm like, it had. Oh my God. One of the brothers from Love and Rockets did the first issue.
One of the Hernandez brothers.
All three brothers did the first 4 issues.
Okay.
Jaime, Beto, and the third lost one. What's his name? All of a sudden I forget. Harpo. It's in here somewhere.
So like I said, it started. There was another movie that's influenced. I can't think of what it is. But anyway, so I read this and it pulled me in. No, I don't think it's The Matrix. It's on Wikipedia. I mean, there was no. That's what I mean. I don't have an article on this thing in any of my magazines or anything over the years. but it's still praised and all these people. I mean, I'm like, how did this not get
One of the earlier series, Mike colluded did a cover for it too.
right? But like when I saw this, I saw standard, black and white fare. Don't get me wrong, but then it's like you read this thing and it's like buildings that were designed to supposed to calm you down, but it had the opposite effect. It drove everybody nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's handled in a way where it's one of those things you read it. I'm amazed with the structuring and the pacing. It's an idea, it's a character, and they're not throwing all this stuff at once. And it's like it's got a mood and a vibe all of its own while you're reading it.
Yeah,
it's cool. I mean,
psychotexture they call it.
Yeah.
And someone sabotaged the psychotexture. You know what's funny about Mr. X too is I loved the Hernandez brothers issues. And then this is the first place I ever ran into Seth's work.
Okay.
And I wasn't a huge fan of his work on Mr. X. Never would I guess he'd go on to become one of my favorite cartoonists. Not that it's bad. It's just I just didn't think it was as good as the Hernandez brothers stuff and the tide. And it was early. He even says now he wasn't quite sure what he was doing with this. But looking back, it's quite stylish.
I was looking on Amazon Prime earlier, and there was an animated project that Seth had a hand in.
Well, I'll tell you what, when I got on that guy, Mr. X is what made me try to find a print, and it's the only one I got into a bidding war. And it came to $358, but it's the condemned. So that's a newer story, I guess, in the history of Mr. X, considering he started in the 80s. I also let you know I found a trade of Rex Mundi for 99 cents since you were talking about it.
Okay. That's good stuff. Dean Motter has been doing his own drawing Mr. X stuff for the last, I don't know, in Dark Horse Presents, a lot of it appeared.
Yeah.
Yeah. Comic Cracks. Who's he talking about? Seth?
Seth is the guy I just mentioned. He's
okay, got you. I'm making sure it's the same. Yeah, I got you now. Comic Cracks right on that.
Palookaville. This guy. He does Clyde fans. It's a good.
I know him.
Yeah,
I know that. Yeah, I got that. I like this. Mind the Comics likes people who knows exactly where every book is. Maybe 99%. 99% of them, maybe on my end.
Mine's like somewhere in a pile in another room. So.
Yeah, you're still figuring out style. By the end, it looks more like.
I can usually find my collected editions, but don't expect me to find the floppies. Because I haven't ordered anything in 12 years.
I can find the floppies easier because I have a database of them. Like if I were to look, if I wanted to know where a particular issue was, like it's like I can walk over to my Savage Dragons, which are right over there. But if I had to find an issue, a random issue of something else, I'd look it up on my database, and it would tell me what room, what shelf, or what box it's in.
Gotcha.
Sometimes I knew just where this was, but I don't know where all my trades are because I have to constantly move them around. Yeah. When I get new ones, I have to make space for them. I have to get rid of some that have to be shelved by height.
That's what I'm starting to get into is the moving around because of space, and that's throwing me off a little bit.
Yeah.
But getting back to Mr. X, I just can't believe that after all the years on YouTube, all the books, all the people that run across and stuff, Mr. X has eluded me. I'm like,
I don't know how you missed it.
It makes no sense to me. I
mean, that happens sometimes because, like, I still don't. I love Matt Wagner, but I've never read any of his Grendel stuff.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
At least you heard the Grendel. Mr. X, I didn't hear about him until about last month. And then I started, but I started recalling seeing some books in dollar boxes over the years. I think there was a Dark Horse Presents I might have that I never read his part of it. That's what I'm getting at. It's like it's been there, but I never heard anybody praise it. Never got recommended to me, and I'm like, damn it.
This is now one of those books that's lists on Amazon Prime for like $500, but I don't think anyone ever buys it because you can find copies a lot cheaper on eBay. So sort of like, remember, I don't know if you guys were, I was once again looking at old Palookavilles on eBay. And people really want Palookaville #1 to be worth a lot of money, but it's just not. And you'll see like Palookaville #1 on eBay for like anywhere from $50 to $150. and no one ever buys it. If you look at sold, no one ever buys it. And they have individual issues of Palookaville from anywhere from like $15 to $50, and no one ever buys it. Matter of fact, I looked on the sold category, and the only issues of Palookaville that are sold are when someone sells a lot of them. Like I saw someone sold a lot of like 1 to 23, which includes all those little $20 hardcover books for like $80.
Yeah,
you know, and that's dirt cheap. And I saw another lot of like, you know, like maybe another 12 issues of Palookaville sold for like $50. And that's more what people actually pay.
There's been stuff like that was sort of always there on eBay like that, but the last 3 years it's been horrible. Like books that you go to comicbookrealm.com, a free service to price your book. You'll jump on the eBay and people are selling the book for $20 to $99. No exaggeration. Blows my mind.
But the thing is, you can't find issues of Palookaville either, because it's as someone once. That's one of those comics that someone has to die for the collection of Palookaville to go hit the market. Yeah. You know, anybody who owns Palookaville isn't selling it. It's just one of those small press books like that.
Yeah, once they get it, they don't give it up. I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, everybody who bought Palookaville bought it because they like it.
It's like you go in a used bookstore and there's certain authors you never find because of that.
Yeah.
And then there are other ones that it's like in every used bookstore are full of Tom Clancy books.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Twilight.
There's a billion of them. That's why you can always find Spider-Man books at a comic shop.
Yeah.
There's a ton of them, and people get rid of them.
Right.
Scott, I just had a flashback. I remember when I was putting that book back, and you said you need to get it because Philip Jose Farmer bought it, and I was like, going to put it back, or he signed it. It was a signed book by. You remember this? Philip Jose Farmer. Okay, never mind. Moving on. What else you got here?
Where was this?
Salem, that bookstore in Salem. White building, big white building.
Oh, that place is closed now.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't remember that at all.
And I only had those 2 comics on my pull list this week, so this next one was an impulse buy, though I probably would have ordered it if I saw it on my final order cutoff. It's the facsimile edition of the first appearance of Falcon. I saw that on the shelf and was like, I'll buy that, especially because I only had 2 comics in my pull list.
That's awesome.
I'll buy that for $1.
Now this one's $4 though. It's the facsimile.
Oh, okay.
Here's a little trivia for you. Captain America was the one Marvel book that lasted on my pull list well into the 90s. Captain America, until Rob Liefeld took it over, Captain America was the one Marvel book from my childhood to 96 or whenever that Heroes Reborn came out that I bought all the issues of. Nothing else. And as a matter of fact, I've just I have if you watch my weekly pull, I have a section right on top of my printer that every week I put one comic book, one of my old comic books, just so I can look at the cover. It's my museum for one. And I have an old issue of Captain America there that I think in the 90s I used to buy them as back issues. Like I never bought back issues a lot, but occasionally I looked through, old caps I didn't have. And, back issues of Captain America were like $3 or $4 in the 90s. So I bought a bunch of them that I just bought. Like 3, never got the first appearance of the Falcon though. So I'm glad to have that one.
I like the Falcon.
I really do enjoy those facsimile editions.
Yeah, Captain America and the Falcon when Kirby was on him with the story of the swine. I know exactly the first time I saw the Falcon. And I'm like, I dug
that was the first. I think the first Captain America I picked up was the swine, the Kirby, and it just blew my mind. It was so different than everything else I had read.
I can actually find several Dick novels in stores here.
And it's always in print.
Not always. Some of the earlier stuff, it's hard to find now.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to do go ahead.
Seth and Palookaville. I was just reminded of this because He finally finished Clyde Fans, and he put it all out as one big graphic novel volume. Came out last winter, and I was like, I'm like, I didn't have the money for it right then. I put it on my pull list, and I took it out of the I ordered it from the library. This is pre-COVID. We could go to libraries, and what really I love the book. I love the whole thing, but I never ordered my copy of it because what really annoyed me about it was the book designer. It's a Seth cover, but right in the middle of the cover, they cut out a window because the book design was like an illustration of the city, and I guess they cut out a window to be. So every time you opened the book like this, your fingers went through the window in the middle, and it was just so freaking annoying. And I noticed it, and I've been looking at it for the past year on Amazon, going, should I get this? That window, I want a printing without the window. It's just so annoying to me because it's.
So you're saying that window was a pain?
Yes. It's like you can't hold it.
You got it.
So finally, I noticed that book's out of print, and the price is starting to rise on Amazon. And I was like, "Ooh, should I get it before the price?" I'm like, "No, I hate that version of it." And they're actually coming out with a paperback version next year. I mean, actually this year now.
The price is going up because everybody keeps breaking their window on it, and they want one mint.
There's nothing to even break. It's just a hole in the cardboard. It's just like makes it tough to even hold.
They should have done a hard-boiled like that, where you actually had a hole in the book you could stare through.
All right. I'm gonna do 4 real quick here, so we can move on to Steve Lightel and something. But
Steve Lightel,
we got to do that parody. Am I there?
Yeah.
Everybody froze up on me. All right.
I don't know.
We have to do that parody. I'm going to be Comic Tim in our parody video or show that we do for speculators.
Okay.
The parody. We got to do it, man. I got pumped about it, right? But when this punchline came up, this character last year or whatever, everybody was cracking up, getting all hot about. I'm sitting here on the sidelines going, "Oh wow, they brought the mime back." So I found the first appearance of the mime. And I'm like, I thought that for about a week, I thought everybody was like all nuts about the mime coming back. I'm like, what was the big deal? Then I find out it's a whole other character, even though they look alike, we don't have to do this, but here was when Byrne was hot and they brought back the Magpie. She never went anywhere. But I found a John Sable #1. I've seen #1s in this for years in dollar boxes.
Yeah.
I think this one came to 49 cents, so I had to do it. And then somebody was trying to tell me there was a John Sable television show. Was this true?
Yes.
I've heard about it, but I've never seen it.
Based on the comic.
Yeah, from what I understand, there's also a Kickstarter where he's reprinting the Sable stuff in hardcovers.
Man, okay, yeah, I think I saw something about that. But this is a book. This is probably my 5th copy, but this one is unread, right? And I always pick one of these books up, give it a home. And a couple months ago, I ran across 2 channels who had reviews of this character, and they spent 5 to 10 minutes just burying them. But it's the Martial Law Takes Manhattan.
I love Martial Law.
I have so much respect for 80s Marvel for putting this out, because if you've read it, they really take the piss out of a lot of their characters, man. They let them do it. But this is unread, untouched. I have and this, like I said, this is probably my 4th or 5th copy of this one. But yeah, I cannot. This is probably my favorite martial law story. Now that I've been able to, soak them all in over the years.
He killed Bucky.
I still have all my issues of John Sable Freelance on my shelf. Volumes 1 and 2, and I'll probably never read them again. I haven't read them since they first came out, and over the years I've always gone, you know what, I should get rid of those issues, but I never do because there's nowhere for them to go. No one wants John Sable Freelance. It's one of those comic series that once again, everybody who ever read John Sable Freelance either still has them or got rid of them. And there's no clamoring out there for John Sable Freelance issues. It's amazing.
Well, I mean, it was there. That's all. I didn't go looking for it. It found me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It was cheap. So I'm like, okay, yeah. But the last one I'll show, and I remember when this came out, I don't have my original copy. I don't know where it went. Maybe it's in a box. I don't know. But when this came out, I was like 16, and I was bouncing around thinking, oh, I better hurry and get that. And everybody's going to buy it up because it had John Byrne and Terry Austin reuniting again. I thought that was a big deal. And it was just an Avengers West Coast annual around that time that John Byrne was coming back to Marvel. And
Atlantis Attacks.
But the whole story is by John Byrne and Terry Austin. And all I heard for 5 or 6 years was people wanted Austin and Byrne back together. And I was like, they did it. They're officially back, and it's not just a cover or something. So that's your 16-year-old speculative mind back then. So, yeah.
Remember when artists used to make books more expensive?
Just saying. But I just remember when I saw it and I opened up the cover and see, who's working on it. John Byrne, was he just doing the cover? That's what I was looking for. Is it just a John Byrne cover? And I thought it was Byrne and Austin. I'm like, oh, I got to hurry and get that. I remember that panic that came over me. Like everybody knows Byrne and Austin's on this book. I better hurry and get it. Nobody gave a crap.
Yeah, they made fun of you. They made fun of you at the start because that's not Todd McFarlane, man. Who's this Byrne guy?
Did I ever tell you the story about when I was 16 and I had a friend who was 18 and he was too scared to buy condoms?
No, I don't think so.
No.
This will be quick, man. This guy's name, I'm going to call him out. His name was Joe Silcox. And I walked in, when you walked into this, into Scotty's pharmacy to get my comic books, it's a very narrow store. And all the way in the back of the store is where you picked up your drugs. And they got the spinner rack right beside of it. And that's where all the cotton top old women are back there with their little purses and their home perms hanging out.
Yeah.
And Joe's all the way up in the front waiting for me, but they have the condoms in the back. So I walk up and Joe goes back getting away from me because he doesn't want to be near me when I buy these for him. And when I get up there, the lady's just looking at me. So now he's standing with all the cotton top old women looking at a comic book. So I turned around and I looked at the lady at the register. I looked down at him and I remember looking again and I yelled out, "Hey, Joe, do you want rib for her pleasure or not?" Don't you look at me like that? I was 16.
What you should have yelled at him said, "Joe, they don't have any small ones."
Well, I'll be right back.
He'll be right back. You want small or extra small? He got in trouble for telling that story. Whoa. Now he's got to get spanked.
He broke the bro code.
What was that?
Tim broke the bro code.
You always rib your bros. That's what you got to do.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, do you remember that scene in, what was it, Woody Allen's Bananas?
I've never seen that movie.
Nope.
Or was it Take the Money and Run? It was Take the Money and Run, where he was trying to buy a porno mag.
No.
And so he was in the store, that, one of his 70s movies, trying to buy a porno mag. Mm-hmm. And so he's like, I'll get Time and Newsweek, and maybe I'll get one of these too. And he puts the porno mag in the stack, and he brings them up to the front. And the cashier is like, Charlie, Orgasm. How much is a copy of Orgasm? And he's just like, no. How much is a copy of Orgasm? I think that was Take the Money. I haven't seen either of those movies in so long.
The only Woody Allen movie that I've seen the whole way through that I remember was Sleeper. And I've seen a couple of the other ones, but I haven't seen the whole movie. Just seen like little bits and pieces of them here and there.
Check out Bananas and Take the Money and Run. Those are his early classical ones.
I always had a feeling that nobody actually watches full Woody Allen movies, and so I get the impression that every Woody Allen movie is the same.
Seems like the one scene I remember is he's part of a parade and he's in a band. And he's going a few feet and then sitting down a chair and then playing some music for a while.
He played the stand-up bass in the marching band.
Okay, yeah, I remember that scene. Yeah.
That was Take the Money and Run, I think.
Okay, gotcha.
Those are the ones where people say back when Woody Allen used to be funny. Broadway Danny Rose is one of my favorites.
I remember when Eddie Murphy used to be funny, too.
Didactic in any way. He was a small-time talent agent. Well, let me show you the last comic I got this week, which was also a impulse buy. Did you guys hear about this one? Solid Blood, number 17.
I bet that one has poor circulation.
Actually, it had terrific circulation. What this one is, this is one of those weird Robert Kirkman projects that he sprung on everyone. It's Robert Kirkman and Ryan Ottley.
Yeah, no more zombies.
It came out 2 weeks ago, but my comic shop owner was telling me this. They sent 10 copies to every comic shop, and it shot up in price because no one was expecting it and blah, blah, blah. So I think my comic shop owner tried to sell them on eBay. Couldn't. Meanwhile, he also ordered 50 more. So he's like, now I got 50 copies I can't sell. So we had them out on the rack Wednesday. So I knew about it and wanted to check it out.
You guys talk about Woody Allen while I was gone.
Yes.
But it's just like the 17th issue of a series. So I think they were trying to capture that old feeling of, when we were kids and you started reading comics, you just started wherever. We didn't have that many issues.
Every comic had the potential of being somebody's first comic. That mindset.
Yeah. But so it's like they throw you right in the middle of the story and give you. So it was kind of interesting. The main problem was it's the cheapest comic ever in terms of its production value. They did it on I guess he wanted to look like newsprint too, because they did it on an uncoated stock, and the printing is pretty crappy on it. But it's a 24-page comic, and it's lighter than an old newsprint comic. That's how light it is. So in my hand, it feels terrible. I would never buy an issue of this again, just because it feels so cheap. I don't know if they're going to put out any other. And there's ads like Cory Walker, Kick Fight. This was a comic that was supposed to exist at the same time as this one. They even give you the next issue cover. But, this is all stuff that... So they did it, and they even had a letters page that they did as if, there had been 16 previous issues. So they're talking about the death of a major character like a few issues ago.
Yeah, so it's just like 1963.
Yeah, except it's really, 2007, I think this is supposed to be, or somewhere around there. So it was... It did what it was supposed to. Like my main problem is just the sheer flimsiness of it. It was just so flimsy.
It's like a soft taco in your hand.
Yeah, it's like the flimsiest comic in a long time. So it's like I would not want to buy another issue of this. And it's flimsier than 1970s newsprint comic because paper stock is so much lighter now.
Gotcha.
Even uncoated paper stock is especially light. Hey, John.
What's up?
Well, the story itself was fine. Passing something up because it feels cheap, yeah.
I didn't read that one all the way through. He got me.
Scott's been coming at you with a Peter David punt.
25 years ago, a title like Solid Blood would have been perfect for an Image comic.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't have just been blood. It would have been another quantifier after blood. Blood Strike, Blood Razor.
That would be early 90s.
Something.
Yeah, right? Solid Blood Strike.
There was a blood. Yeah, Lightel put out Blood Strike. I think I have some issues of that.
Solid Razor Blood,
War Blood, Death Kill Hawk, Razor, something.
Yeah, years ago somebody made a title generator
I was just about to say that. Yeah.
Yeah,
think it's
I remember that. Oh, by the way, there was a quote from Esad Ribic in here that struck me as evidence. Once again, our creative power, the lack of creative powerhouse idea that I had, evidence of that. And this is, I've heard lots of similar quotes to this, over the last 20 years. He says, talking about the Eternals he's working on now. This imagery is completely different from anything I've done before. It's fun playing with a different set of building blocks. And that's just what I mean. Everyone's playing with building blocks. No one makes the building blocks anymore. So he's not creating any building blocks. And that's an attitude. You always hear, I love playing with someone else's toys. We're in someone else's sandbox now, playing with their toys. We're talking about working for Marvel and DC. And I think that's, they're not interested in making their own toys and their own sandbox, and it's not encouraged. So I think like a quote like that, it just struck me. That's kind of evidence of not being a creative powerhouse. As talented an artist as the Esad Ribic is, he's playing with someone else's. He's playing with someone else's building blocks.
Yeah, even if you worked in the French market, you'd probably get hired to do a spin-off of L'Enfust or something in the Troy universe. He wouldn't do a comic of his own. Yeah. Not that it wouldn't be bad for L'Enfust.
No. This art is very nice. Like I said, it's not that any of this is bad. It's at best it's going to be a B+ in terms of that is the best Marvel. My whole point of there not being creative powerhouses is you need creative powerhouses to make A+ material. The best Marvel and DC can do now is B+, the Sal Buscema line. And imagine if in the Bronze Age and the Silver Age, Sal Buscema was I hate to put Sal Buscema down because I like his stuff, but he's a B+ and artist and not a creative powerhouse. And that ends up overall with B+ comics. Without Lee, without Kirby, Ditko, and lots of those 70s guys, Marvel and comics itself wouldn't be what it is today. And now we're in a period where there's creative powerhouses have just been, filtered out of Marvel and DC both.
So now they're all Rich Buckler.
Yeah, they're B+. So see, Rich Buckler at least made Deathlock. That is what redeems Rich Buckler for me. Have you read Deathlock, the original stuff?
No.
Yep.
It holds up. It is really, like I said, Rich Buckler, make fun of him. Well, I understand why people make fun of him, and I'd make fun of him too. But his Astonishing Tales run on Deathlock is a classic, and it holds up. If you were to read that now, you'd go, wow. This came out in 1974.
Tim reminds me of one of those models that they have on a game show where they're like, show a book and like
a spokesmodel, not even a spokesmodel. It's a model.
This is at Ollie's for I think $8. Just saying.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
But that block is kind of like this. It starts really good, takes a small dip, and then comes back up until it reaches a climax, and then the story is finished by J.M. DeMatteis. Then
the stuff after Buckler and Minch is just they just make him a Marvel superhero.
Mm-hmm. They bring him back to the present.
Yeah, once they bring that, to me, Deathlock as a character only really, I mean, he's only special when he's in that world in the first, because the story of Deathlock, Scott, is it takes place in the dystopian future of 1991. And it's like the United States is degenerated into these sort of. You don't even really get a good idea of the overall world. You just know you're caught up in this one small part of a war. You don't even know who the enemy is. You just know that the United States has fractured and is now small parts now.
But,
So it's kind of like The Walking Dead. You just know a slight little slice of action going on.
You kind of get a feeling as the series progresses that nothing really changed. They're just using New York City for war games.
Yeah, it's strange. I never really got a.
It's a concept that like feels like it's like a decade before its time. You know what I mean? Because it's like the Punisher meets Captain America meets Mad Max in a way, with a little Escape from New York in there. I mean, just to talk like that. But he's got a computer where he's a cyborg. The computer. He's always.
Well, hold on. Let me. That's just not it, because that doesn't, to me, that doesn't encapsulate what Deathlock is.
Right.
But especially in that first series, because now he's just a cyborg. That's all. He's a cyborg superhero.
Yeah.
But in that original series, he was the Riker. Was that whoever this colonel was overseeing a project to, of course, make a super soldier, because, it's comics. Who doesn't want to make a super soldier? And what they were doing was they were making this cyborg super soldier. So they took Luther Manning, who was one of their best soldiers who died in combat. And they took his body to make the cyborg out of. And they put a computer in his head. And they kept a little piece of his brain to keep the computer. They needed a little piece of his brain in there to keep the computer going and cyborg stuff. He was dead. So when he finally came online, Luther Manning is there. They were not expecting a live soldier to be in this cyborg. They were expecting their computer to be running the show. But somehow Luther Manning is in there, and his body, which is now half zombie and half robot, because he's dead. His flesh is literally dead. So he's just and he breaks out, and then he's just kind of when Paolo says that it kind of dipped down. That's because he just didn't know what to do. There was like that like his origin kind of happened, and then he escaped. And then it was like, well, what do I do? He's just this half zombie, half robot wandering this apocalyptic world for a couple of issues, and then they brought it back to a story. But it was just so well done. Just the whole character of him, there we go, being caught in his head, and
I have.
And when they brought him into the Marvel universe proper, he just became a cyborg.
Yeah. Deathlock was all alone, but he got caught up in that. They decided to do a Marvel team up, which is what Marvel did when they wanted to either complete a storyline that from a canceled comic or try to raise the sales of a failing comic. They did that with Brother Voodoo, for example. But they did
that's what they used to do in the 70s when you wanted to finish a story and your book got canceled. That's how Starlin finished the original Thanos story. Yeah,
and there were and there were a couple of issues where Spider-Man was running around the time stream, and he went to.
Those were really good issues of Marvel Team Up, from like 37 to 50. To me, like Marvel Team Up from issues 37 to about 52 was sort of a classic run of Marvel Team Up that really did a good job showing the team up concept. I think Bill Mantlo wrote them and Sal Buscema drew them.
That's about what I was going to ask. Claremont and Byrne, I think I would extend out the Claremont Byrne stuff.
Well, there was after that. That was a different thing, but those Claremont and Byrne issues were excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they because the Spider-Man was time traveling, they have the obligatory appearance of Killraven and Deathlock.
Right.
So and those were kind of in their own universes. And Marvel writers used to be, they can't leave anything alone. Everything's got to be connected.
Yeah.
And that's when they make them less special. Now they're not in their own universe. They're not the only thing there. Now they're part of the larger Marvel multiverse. And by the magic of time travel, they can interact with everybody else if the story needs it.
And also in the original Deathlock story, he had a wife. So he woke up after his death now, and his wife is married to his old best friend.
Sounds like RoboCop.
He's half zombie. And it was before, you could see all the stuff. You could see Deathlock's influences, and you could see all the stuff Deathlock influenced when you read those first Astonishing. Because Deathlock, that story influenced a lot of stuff, even though it isn't really acknowledged as. And it had its influences too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but the RoboCop thing, I've heard that many times before. I
Yeah.
actually, like, right when RoboCop did come out, I remember hearing stuff like that. But yeah, I don't want to shift gears too hard here, but I did put it in the title. But Steve Lightel passed away. That 61 years old. Am I still in there, guys? Every time I speak, okay,
You're here.
But I've told you guys beforehand, like, he was on my Facebook for a while, and I kind of dipped out there. And then after I heard about his passing today, 61 years old, and it was kind of heartbreaking because when I jumped over there to see what his family had to say, he was posting like 24 hours, like right now, on HBO Max. And Steve Lightel was one of those guys as an artist that I liked when I was a kid because I was a Legion guy. Then he jumped over on Doom Patrol. He did that Doom Patrol #1 cover that he did for the 88 series, I think is when it came out. 87 series was fantastic. Did a few things at Marvel, and then I think he started his own company somewhere or something, putting out his own stuff. But he's one of those guys that he's one of the guys that actually put more aliens in Legion to make it look like, it's from the United Planets. Telos, this yellow and purple alien, was probably one of his, more popular designs and stuff that he did. And, just wanted to get it out there. I was kind of like, well, damn, that's a shame,
Yeah, it is. It's funny because he's one of those guys I kind of missed out on because I can't remember what he did, but I remember seeing his work like in the early 80s when he first started out and saying to myself, wow, this guy's pretty good. He could turn into something.
Yeah.
But by the time he was on the Legion, I kind of was out of buying mainstream comics mostly. So I never got to really see his Legion stuff or his Doom Patrol stuff. But I remember seeing his stuff before then and going, wow, this guy's pretty cool. What did he do? I can't remember what I saw him on, though, for the life of me. Something
I think he's doing covers and stuff. I mean,
I remember a few of his covers, but I can't even tell you what books they were on.
But like he may have done a Swamp Thing or two here and there. That's what he'd show up when he was new. He'd show up here and there for a couple issues on stuff.
Well, after he did his Legion stuff and people were missing, I mean, I've got a back issue that I just ordered where they have an interview with him about his year.
Right.
And then he did his I think he did 5 issues of Doom Patrol before Eric Larson popped on that book. Eric Larson was Eric Larson. But he popped up in X Factor at Marvel. And when he arrived at Marvel, I thought he was going to blow up and take off and be one of those guys there.
Yeah.
He had X Factor versus Avengers or Thor or something, I can't remember. And then all of a sudden, it's like I just saw a cover here and there that he would do. And then somewhere along the line, I heard that he had his own comic book company that he was doing, but I never saw one book to buy from it. So I don't know.
Yeah, his son said something about if you're I guess he's got a Patreon page too. Okay. So his son said, cancel your Patreon because we're cleaning up this stuff. Yeah.
But I mean, it's really hard to sit here and really talk too much about him because it was just through his work. And I was there buying it when it was coming out in the 80s. His 80s stuff. And then, like I said, I'd pop up and see a cover here. I think he did some X-Men Classic backups or something. But yeah, if I went through my box, I'd probably find more and more.
Yeah, from like I said, I can't remember where I know him from, but it was his pre-Legion stuff where he would do stuff here and there.
I think for me, it's probably
starting out.
I think he did some Red Sonja covers.
Oh, okay.
But he definitely made an impact. He was the guy that to me, when you read his stuff, it was just, I think it's probably like in my mind, you got to understand this is mid-'80s. When you're 10, 11, 12 years old, he came out with a style that kind of made you feel like you could draw yourself, but it was so innovative with some of the stuff he's doing. It was just cool when you saw it. It was just cool.
I remember his style catching my eye. I remember going, oh.
Yeah.
He was one of those more illustrative guys.
Yeah.
Back before everybody was. Now,
I don't think I actually have anything by him. If I do, it's probably a fill-in somewhere.
Yeah.
But I thought it was just sad. One of the guys that, he's one of those classic Legion artists is what it comes down to. Anybody that's a Legion hero artist.
Most of the people I saw today were talking about his Legion work.
Yeah. Yeah, the Legion stuff was phenomenal. You also got to understand he was following up from Giffen. You know what I mean? So
Right.
just saying, you know.
That's a tough act to follow. The Giffen Legion was the first time I read Darkseid.
Really?
Because I had never read Kirby's. I don't think at that point. What year did the Giffen's Legion come out? Early '80s.
I want to say they started. Oh my gosh, you got me on the spot. I think Levitz returned to the book in '81, and Giffen came on 83. I want to say 82, 81 or 82 is when it really started.
I would guess so, because I was still buying stuff, and that would put me about 16, 17, 16, probably 16.
That box right there, I can start digging through it if you want. It's all in order.
So I'm not sure. I think I may have known who Darkseid was and associated him with Kirby, but I'd never read, not being a DC kid, and the Fourth World also having ended probably a couple of years before I really started paying attention, being a comics collector. So that had all this, the Great Darkness saga had all this build-up to Darkseid showing up. And I was just like, oh, I think this guy's the big bad from some old story. I just had no idea. I wasn't 100% sure. But still, all the build-up was fun.
Somehow at the same time, I saw the Justice League issues where the New Gods popped up in Justice League. And then at the same time, I saw Darkseid on the cover of that Legion. I was the opposite. It was the first time I saw somebody besides Kirby draw Darkseid, and I didn't like it. Neither one. You know, I was like, no. You know,
that was the first time they made Darkseid a major villain outside of the Kirby stuff, right?
He popped, like I said, he popped up in Justice League.
Secret Society of Supervillains.
Secret Society of Supervillains. But the thing about it was that it was the future. It was the first time that you had a villain from modern times pop up in the DC future and kind of make a connection. It was such a surprise. Because the whole deal was it was a build-up of who sent these minions, who's the main villain, and all of a sudden nobody saw it coming. It blew them away. It was everybody was really shocked, and
they
it was
did
a cool villain.
They did a good job building it up.
Yeah. That like I said, that Giffen, that era of the Legion, I put right up there with X-Men and Teen Titans at the time.
Oh yeah, it was good stuff. It was. Yeah. Lightel had a pretty long stint as cover artist on classic X-Men.
That's what I thought. Yeah, I think I had the reprints of the Dark Phoenix where he did the covers and stuff. Such story.
Then I definitely have a couple of those covers, even in the Brazilian editions, when they were doing some of the X-Men reprints.
Awesome. But it was good stuff. He's one of those guys who just pick up some of the stuff and enjoy it. I mean, that's all there is to it. What is
the new comic shop news we got with here, we'll hold it up again. Ultra Mega kicks off with Ultra Mega first issue.
Ultra Man or Ultra Mega?
Ultra Mega. Okay. I think it's a Ultraman sort of riff. Who's doing James Harren and Dave Stewart on colors. I don't know who James Harren is.
Yeah, I don't either.
But the first issue is 68 pages for $8. So that kind of puts me off it, even though it looks pretty cool.
Well,
it sounds a little bit like Big Girls, in that giant monsters and these guys got to fight them, have taken over the world. They have to defend the cities. But, that's not exactly the most original concept. But the art kind of looks interesting. Giant monster fights.
Yeah, when it comes to Ultraman, I kind of throw people to go to Tubi if you can stream Tubi. I mean, it's free. Yeah. But they have several seasons of the Ultraman series going back to the 60s all the way up to now. But a lot of them, but they're in Japanese. I'm just going to let everybody know. And did we find subtitles on that? I don't know. But yeah,
it says here. Harren says it's a celebration of the kind of books I grew up reading, comics that move and curse and bleed. I don't know what comics he grew up reading, but
we'll see. Now when we move our comics book boxes around, we move and curse and bleed.
Yeah,
I don't want a puddle left behind. So I'm saying.
That's why you always buy short boxes. That's what, when I was about
Yes.
20 years old, some guy at the comic shop was like, never buy long boxes.
He
They'll
was
break
right.
your back
I
eventually.
converted to
Only
short
buy-
boxes a long time ago. Yeah.
Yeah, I never, ever since that guy told me that, I never bought a long box. If I ever happened to get a long box, got it out of there. There's a whole bunch of Marvel stuff that's all King in Black stuff that I don't even know what King in Black is.
I know what King in Yellow is, but not King in Black.
It's like everything else last couple years. It won't matter. By the time you're caught up, they're already going to have something else going on.
Yeah. I don't know how Marvel fans do it.
Yeah. In the Avengers, they're doing a Phoenix thing again.
Again, yeah, that's the word. You know, and they ought to just call themselves Marvel again. That's all.
Yes.
I mean,
In DC, that future tense or whatever it's called, it's like they're doing a Crisis on Infinite Earths riff on the Commandy book, going across space and time, recruiting heroes, and the time trappers involved somehow.
Yeah, I saw that. It got sent to me because Commandy is going to be in it, and of course, Booster Gold's right beside of him. But basically, I mean, I read this book 20 years ago when it was called Paradise X Heralds. It's been done, or Exiles, or wherever you want to go. It's been done.
They'll have to bring Patrick Duffy back so we can have Man from Atlantis attacks.
They're doing another Maestro series.
Yeah, Pax. Maestro
War in Pax.
Yeah.
Oh, Maestro. Okay.
Yeah. I'm not going to lie. The 3 issues of Maestro that I read are actually pretty good, but I mean, it's a Peter David Hulk story. Yeah, it's a Peter David Hulk story. I don't want to say a throwback, but they fit right in, I want to get that one in trade. The trade actually came out to be $5 to $10 cheaper than the individual issues, so I might get it.
Right.
Yeah.
I said to myself, I'll get that one in trade if I want it to, because. But that just reminded me. Do you guys use Hoopla, the library app?
No, I still owe the library money, so that's why not. So.
Our libraries aren't that advanced around here. So.
Yeah, they are.
But it really,
around where I'm at,
yes,
we're an hour and a half apart, Scott.
Yeah, I realize that.
But Hoopla is a library app where if your local library is using it, you can borrow digital books. And they have comics. Mm-hmm. So and they had the latest Phillips and Brubaker comic, Restless. And I was like, oh, cool. It's on my wish list on Amazon. I'll get it eventually. But I'm like, I may as well read it digitally now since I can. So I took it out digitally on my iPad from Hoopla. And it was real good. Reckless. It's sort of, I call it California Sunshine Noir. Because it takes place in the 70s by this guy who sets up a business for himself where someone reminds me of Married with Children episode.
I was thinking
and if you've read Brubaker and Phillips stuff, I've read it all. I love it all. I rank them all. Some I like some better than others, but overall I like them all. And I really enjoyed this one. The guy who kind of set up a little business for himself, and this is in the 70s. He's got a 1-800 number where if you've got some problem that needs handling, you call him up. And if he wants to take the job, he takes the job. So he's sort of a fixer. And it's one of those Brubaker and Phillips have this way of doing characters that are, like I said, they're noir characters. But it all takes place in the California sunshine. And I noticed that with this one. I'm like, you know what? That's kind of a specific genre. This whole California noir thing. Like, what was that movie from years ago? Yes, like L.A. Confidential. It's a noir movie, but it all takes place in the California sunshine. So it's not quite like every other noir movie that takes place. A New York City noir movie is a completely different thing.
Right.
It's all in the dark and the shadows. The California, an LA one is different. So this is really an LA one. And good story. And it also reminds me of the guy isn't a detective. He's a fixer. So in this particular story, he, decides to play detective because something happens. He wants to get revenge for this murder, so he's got to track down who murdered someone. Except he's not a detective, and you forget, like since he's presented as a detective, sort of, you forget he's not a detective. So as the plot goes along, you realize he keeps not finding the right thread. You always find out later on that he really wasn't on the right path because he's not a detective. So it was a real interesting story about a detective story, kind of about a guy who's not a detective and isn't really good about being a detective, but he was on the trail anyway. And he finds out how he was manipulated too. So there's all sorts of stuff. It was really good stuff. But I was happy and I'm going to get the graphic novel eventually. But I was happy to read it on Hoopla.
See, I'm always looking for anything that's got anything to do with detective and a good murder mystery. You can't find that stuff anymore. You really can't. I mean, it blows.
And he wrote. There's going to be 3 of them. This is the first of them, all that come out this year, called Restless, and that's the guy's last name. I forget his first name. Somebody Restless. And there's surprises and twists and stuff going on in there that are a lot of fun. Well, but it's supposed to be a pulp novel, so it's good.
Well, I would have looked it up if I knew I was going to ask the question, but you kind of made me think about it. But apparently there's a trilogy of comics coming out by the same guy or same team. And the first one they did was, what if Paul McCartney really is dead? It's sort of like Rock and Roll Conspiracy, but they play it, supposedly they play it out like it's real. So they did
heard of that one.
They had one where Paul McCartney's dead. The one that's getting ready to come out is Jim Morrison Never Died. And there's supposed to be one more. Have you guys? Obviously, nobody's heard of this.
I have not heard of those at all.
For the McCartney thing, it would be genius if they stopped it at issue number 9.
No, these are like one shots. You missed one.
But that's
number 9. Number 9. Yeah,
the last issue.
Don't encourage him. Don't encourage him. He'll just make more jokes and puns.
No, I mean, that would be a great idea, That's where it stops.
Well, Comics, he played that one well. He was like completely serious in his face.
I'm actually kind of I realize it's a pun, but it'd actually be kind of a neat idea.
Number 9. And the other thing I'm still in the middle of reading on Hoopla which is funny, I saw the comic in my local comic shop, Hoopla and Libby, to my phone earlier this week. Yeah, Hoopla is real good.
Does Hoopla give you an option of not using a guided view?
Yeah.
Good, because I hate the guided.
Yeah, I don't like the guided view either.
Drives me crazy.
I do not like that. But anyway, the other thing I'm reading, which I actually saw in the comic shop and was thinking about picking it up, but I really didn't want to, was the new adaptation of Dune. Mm-hmm. I can't even remember who's doing it. The writer is a writer, but it's I think the first, it's got a volume 1 in there, the first trade, which is about 150 pages, and I think I'm about 100 pages into it.
Right.
But they're really taking the sort of novel pace of it. They're pacing it like the novel, which I think is good.
It's going to go for a long time then.
Yeah, because I haven't read Dune since I was in high school. But from what I remember of it, it's not really an action book. It's not action.
I'll give you some obscure comic trivia that relates to Dune. If you can find it, there's a reference book on Dune that's called the Dune Encyclopedia.
Yeah.
Technically, it's not canon, but Herbert kind of gave his half-hearted endorsement to it, but it's not an official part of the Dune universe. But Matt Howarth of Post Brothers fame did the artwork for it.
Ah. VV tells us it'll have 3 volumes. Okay.
This
doesn't seem like it can, because the first volume, the first 100 pages is all politics.
Yeah.
What Scott just delved into, this is the stuff I wish he'd do videos about.
He'll do it right here.
But that was your 30-second, thing. Done,
right. But the first volume so far is like all politics, and it's very kind of straightforward.
That's why I never made it through the book. I tried reading the book. I mean, I do not put down Dune, but I've got 2 books of Dune up here. I've never made it through.
I'm enjoying the comic more than the book.
Have any of you guys seen the documentary called Jodorowsky's Dune?
I've always meant to watch it because everybody says it's so good, but
It
I've
is
never
freaking
watched it.
great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Highly recommend that one.
Oh, by the way, here here we also have the latest Marvel Masterworks volume, which is Captain America 231 to 246. Those are not Masterworks. This was a period when I was collecting Captain America, and it was pretty darn mediocre.
Was that the God? Why does this jump in my memory? Is that like the Bloodstone storyline?
No, it was long before then.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Roger McKenzie, isn't it? Roger McKenzie.
McKenzie
It's right after. It's right after Sharon Carter dies, right?
I don't even remember Sharon Carter dying.
Is that a Sienkiewicz cover there, Tim?
Yeah. What? Yeah.
I think he does the covers on the new Dune series. Too.
He did. This is from the '80s. They busted this up into a 3-issue miniseries out of this.
Right after putting it out in a magazine.
What era?
Oh, yeah.
What era Captain Marvel are you talking about? I didn't catch that.
231 to 246, right before the John Byrne and Roger Stern relaunch. That was so good.
I think 232. I could pull it out. I think 232 has a Kurt Busiek letter in it. If you had the original issue, yeah.
Okay, I probably do. This was my original era. Well, I actually started with the Kirby stuff, but I didn't start buying it regularly until like issue 220, I think.
I'm trying to think.
So this is like right in my era, but it was mediocre. Even as a kid, I'm like, wow, this is mediocre Marvel Comics. But, mediocre Marvel Comics back then was better than nothing.
Yeah. I think if you go back 10 issues, there was a couple issues that really freaked me out. I think it was like a black-haired woman who wore like these riding khakis and boots, like she was on a horse, had a green shirt, and she turned into like this great big huge headless golem at the feet of Abraham Lincoln's memorial. It really freaked me out. Bridges. Yes, the riding khakis are called bridges. I have a resource now. Bridges.
Yeah.
Bridges. Yes. Thank you, babe. She
here we have
go ahead.
Coming comics from Aftershock in March. And I would buy more Aftershock comics, except they started making $5 first issues.
The guy from Aftershock Comics. Yeah, that guy from Aftershock Comics actually somehow he got a hold of me on Twitter and was sort of like
Mark?
for me. I think it's who it was. It was public. I mean, he didn't send me a DM. He just said,
he's a good guy, Mike.
Yeah, he was a good guy, and he sort of asked me if I was getting any of them, and if I did review them on the show. He was real nice. I can't find any. You know what I mean? Like,
they're tough. You really have to pre-order Aftershock. A lot of it. Yeah. There's good stuff there. I bought some before. I bought them when I first came out, and I bought some since. But then they started surprising me with $5 first issues, and now all their first issues are $5, and they're no bigger than any of the other. It's not like they give you extra pages for it. Like the second and third and fourth issues are all $4. I'm like, I don't want to pay extra for a first issue. It just annoyed me to no end.
Yeah.
Well, I don't mind if the first issue is a double-sized issue, then
but it's not.
Yeah, but it's not because they don't do it anymore.
Yeah.
Or sometimes what they do now is that it's still a 32-page comic, but they say, oh, instead of 20 pages of story, there's 25 or 27. So?
Yeah. Well, that's what I like about the indie comics. Actually, give each other, like the indie comics I get are usually like 24 pages of story, or else sometimes they'll go extra if they want. They can always put an extra page or two in, unlike Marvel or DC. They just remove a page of their house ads if they want an extra page in the story.
But yeah, because they don't have real paid advertising.
Right. Who am I thinking of? I'm thinking of like IDW or Dynamite. I can't remember which one, or maybe it's both. They have like half their comic is house ads. They either have like the I can't remember sometimes they have like the 32-page package, but only 20 of it so it's like the comic ends like just after the centerfold. And then
my mind is going Dynamite and Dark Horse. I mean, I've seen them both do it. I know.
And don't get me wrong. I actually do prefer the ads after the comic. I actually look at them in the house ads and stuff. I won't look at them if they're in the middle of the comic.
Right.
Oh,
So
that's so
sometimes
annoying.
it's like, you know what? If more pages, you know, this is crazy.
Well, guys, I got to wind it down. We got dinner starting to fill up the house and starting to.
You don't want to eat with us?
But I could let you guys keep going here, man, if you want.
Yeah, you didn't make enough for everybody.
Huh? No, did not. No.
What do you have? What do you have?
Do you want to go eat and come back?
I might. That's what I'm asking. I'm going to hop
Right.
off. You guys can keep going.
We'll talk for a while. You can eat and come back.
Yeah, tell us what you're eating, so we'll be jealous while you're gone.
Shepherd's pie.
Oh yeah, that's good stuff.
I'm not hungry, so I'm not
Let me
jealous.
show 'em
I
the
already ate.
picture. I'll show them the picture. This is what it's going to look like.
Ooh, nice and brown on the top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm already having a brandy.
There was a place in Manhattan that's still there called the Abbey Tavern that we used to get, an Irish pub that we always used to go to after Marvel or sometimes for lunch. They made a really good shepherd's pie, amongst other things.
I'm getting excited here. So
One of the things I thought was cool about New York City, I was only over there overnight, is you have every known food in the world open 24/7. Not all places are, but just the sheer number of restaurants. You could go to a different restaurant every day of your life and still not go through all of them.
I can remember one of the last times I was driving in New York. I was coming home from Brooklyn. All right, go eat. We'll catch you in a few. I was coming home from Brooklyn. I don't know, 1:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And I took the Brooklyn Bridge. Now I have to cross across I have to drive across Manhattan to get to the West Side Highway. And just the amount of people out in lower Manhattan at 1:30 in the morning, riding bikes. At 1:30 in the morning, you have to watch out for bikes when you're driving across Manhattan. It's nuts.
When we went to visit with Mike Kaluta, we went to a Chinese place. It's like a couple blocks off of Broadway. It's about 1:32 in the morning, something like that. Really nice Chinese place, full service. I'm like, man, we don't have this back home at 1:30 in the morning. I wish we did. And it was really good.
Yeah. And the places that are open, everybody congregates.
Right.
I think it was St. Mark's Comics used to be open till 11 or midnight.
Yeah, they closed in the past year or so, didn't they?
Yeah, they closed. You used to be able to go out to the bar, hang out for a couple hours before you went to your next bar. You go to St. Mark's Comics at like 10:30 at night and browse.
Right.
And that place was a hole in the wall too. It wasn't exactly. It was one of those comic shops where, like being an indie guy, especially, I'd go in the back and where they had either the racks or the boxes of indie comics, and they were just jammed in there so tight that you couldn't see anything.
I saw a photograph. It wasn't a very big place.
No, it was small. It was small, but it's like I never liked buying comics there because they was always wrecked too. Because they had the indie comics in the back, and they had like sort of those homemade comic racks that stuck out a little bit like this, and then you stuck comics all in them, and then there was it only covered up like half of so you could see the top half of the comic. And you were supposed to put like 10, 12 comics in that rack. And they had 25 or 30. Wow. And the front ones were just falling down like that.
Yeah.
And it was just like, and they had been in there for a good long time.
Right.
So it was like, I never bought comics there at all. I'd go in and browse, and some of my friends would buy, the latest whatever. But as an indie comic fan, no thanks.
I'd like to know to see live the concept of an all-night comic shop. I really don't see which kind of people would hang out there, because at that time it's probably not the most recommendable of people.
Probably St. Mark's Comics came closest to that concept because that was there was a lot. That was a lot of bars down on that scene too, just downtown from St. Because we would always stop there on our way to Nightbirds, which was one of the dive bars we used to always go to.
But we had a place in Lisbon that I liked to go to when I had to have dinner at 1 in the morning.
Yeah.
Because it used to be, back in the day until the 80s, it used to be the journalists' hangout place. The daily newspapers would be done by midnight, and then everybody would go out to that place to eat. And it's still there. It only opens at like 9 p.m. and closes at 4 p.m. But you have a small group of hardcore journalists who are now old, and whoever's up at that time and wants to find a nice place to sit down and eat. But you always find a seat. But it's nice. You can eat a steak and have a large beer, and it's not very expensive.
That just reminds me. I've never read one. Have you guys ever read any of the Japanese cooking comics?
No.
They have a genre of comics.
Yes, they do.
They have a lot of genres you wouldn't think are popular, but are.
Yeah.
Have a lot of sports-related comics for teenagers.
Yeah. Well, once again, I think that's their comic industry was never infantilized, and they have a robust distribution system too. So,
but
I think that
the amount of genres, even in Europe, nobody thinks of doing comics about some of those genres that the Japanese do.
Yeah. Tim's back. Have you ever read any of the Japanese food comics?
No.
You're just no, I never have either. Oh, the Anthony Bourdain comics.
Yeah,
that's right. What I did not.
He wanted to be a comics creator before he ever became a chef.
Right. He put there. I think was it Dark Horse that partnered with him?
Vertigo at first, and I think they've been reprinted by Dark Horse in that new line.
I never read any just because I couldn't get into food comics. But yeah, maybe they have them on Hoopla. I'll have to.
I didn't even know this was a thing.
It's like a James Bond kung fu comic, but with food.
Okay.
Anthony Bourdain's. Yeah.
You got somebody sold on them here. I figured Gordon Ramsay would be the first one to have one. Maybe he's the villain. Anthony Bourdain.
No, I don't think Gordon Ramsay knows that comics exist. Anthony Bourdain did.
Like there's a whole genre of cooking comics in manga.
This is hilarious.
They're the ones that don't make it over here. I've only heard tell of them. I've never actually read any.
I'm going to end up looking for them on eBay. Somebody's bound to have them over here. We need to get the black market going again.
Wouldn't that be the black and white market?
Hey, yes, we could do that. You're just on a roll tonight there, Scott.
He does this every week. Don't encourage him.
That's the way my brain is wired, man. It just comes up with stuff like that.
Well, something else I've been flipping through, and I've had these forever, so I'm trying to actually sit down. These are the ones that aren't bagged. But
the Warren Spirits
from years ago in the 70s. These are the ones that are getting beat up, and it's killing me. Yeah. But beautiful painted covers on some of these, and I think it's 5 to 7 tales from the strip that he did from the 40s and 50s, and the Vampirella stuff and everything like that. It keeps making me want to get my trades out when I go through these. But I tell you what, man, it's like I didn't realize how much he influenced EC Comics and stuff. Eisner did, big time. There's a couple times I had to sit there and look what I was looking at because it felt like some old Jack Davis or something.
Yeah. And Paul David says he's enjoying the new Dune adaptation too. Yeah, that's good stuff.
The new what adaptation?
A Dune, the comic I
Dune,
was just
okay.
mentioning that I read on
Gotcha.
Hoopla. Yeah, it is really well. What's funny is I don't think I really can't judge the art because the file I'm reading on Hoopla I don't think is as good as it could be. I think however they made their digital file, the art doesn't look as sharp as I think it should. It looks a little too low res. And I'm
Gotcha.
like, I'm not sure who converted this file, but I'll give them an F for file conversion to digital. Sienkiewicz does all of the interior art for that original Marvel Dune graphic novel.
Yeah,
I can't remember if I put that up or not.
Yeah, I had the miniseries. Actually, it had been '85. I was in the hospital getting my appendix took out, and everybody, all these my grandmother's friends and older ladies were bringing me comics, and they brought in the Dune miniseries, and this is what they split up. It came out in this, and they busted it up.
I don't remember if I have any of those. I don't think I do.
Yeah. I had Return of the Jedi in the Indiana Jones Temple of Doom super specials when I was a kid. Those literally disintegrated in my hands. I was going through them so much.
Yeah, I remember buying Return of the Jedi off. No, that was the one that spoiled the movie, right? Return of the Jedi, or was it Empire? Oh, I can't remember now. One of them,
what was the question?
The Marvel adaptation came out the Thursday before the movie came out and spoiled the movie. I think it was Empire.
I don't know.
The paperback
in the comic.
The paperback adaptation of the movie, the first movie, Star Wars, came out like a couple months before the movie did.
Yeah, and that was actually, I read Gremlins the book before I saw the movie, if I remember right, in the theaters. But you got
but this one made all the news.
Yeah,
because I think it was the second. It was the second one. It was Empire, because everybody was waiting for it to come out. It was the first sequel, and all of a sudden they could read everything that happened in the movies, and everybody learned that Darth Vader was Luke Skywalker's father before they saw the movie. And I can remember. I was actually at not my usual comic place. I was at a drugstore, and I just happened to check out the newsstand because I happened to be there. And I looked over, and I saw that, and I went, that movie's not open until this weekend. How is this out? And I knew it was a big deal, so I bought a copy of it and read it.
Over the years, I know that was the big deal, and that's the big one, man. But over the years, I remember certain things coming out like that. I think they did that with a Star Wars movie during the prequels again or something. The novelization came out.
I don't think.
I mean,
I don't know.
They're careful of that stuff. It was such a big deal when that magazine, when the Marvel Super Special came out before the movie, that they made sure after that never happened again.
Yeah. Oh man, good times. And then it's like I always feel like I have to remind people there's no social media or anything like that. So when you heard something like that, you either didn't believe it or you would be running to a store praying that they would still have a copy of something. You know what I mean?
Like if I didn't happen to be in the drugstore that day and I didn't happen to check because I was probably only in that store once every month or two. I just happened to be there the day it came out, and I looked over and went, "Oh, look at that! That shouldn't be." And I knew right away that wasn't supposed to be out because the Empire didn't open yet. I'm like, there was no way that, and it was a big deal when Empire Strikes Back opened up. So I was like, there is no way that's supposed to be out. I'll have to get myself a copy. So I did. That's also why that. I find it funny now to see all the Star Wars collectors collect that. What is it? Star Wars 38 or 39 with Boba Fett on the cover?
Yeah.
All the
80s, nobody wanted that.
Yeah, that's the thing about a lot of those books. I saw them in dollar bins all the way up until like the early 2000s.
Yeah, I mean, a few years ago, you couldn't even give those books away.
Everybody wanted the Super Special because that was the first print. The comic was a reprint. Now it's like nobody even knows the super special exists.
I haven't.
Yeah, me too. And everybody wants that issue.
Go ahead, baby. Yeah.
Because that's what Marvel used to do in the 80s. Whenever they did a movie adaptation, they'd release it in magazine format in Marvel Super Special. And then they'd release it in a 3-issue miniseries on the newsstands, too.
Right.
And that's what except in Star Wars, it was 3 issues in the regular series. So, but that was released like months after the Super Special was out, which everybody got. I always find that funny whenever I see that. First appearance of Boba Fett. I'm like, no, reprint of the first appearance of Boba Fett.
I've got a whole short box here on the shelf somewhere where it's nothing but the movie adaptations, that they broke up the miniseries. Dark Crystal, Dragonlance, I think. I can go on and on with some of the...
I never bought those because I was always buying the super specials.
Not Dragonlance. What was that one about the dragon? It had
Dragon Slayer.
Dragon Slayer.
No, not Dragon. Was it Dragon Slayer? It had Pee-wee from the Porky's movie. It had Pee-wee from the Porky's movie.
I don't know that.
I don't remember that, but I remember that super special and that comic was
Dragon Slayer was Peter McNichol, which is
yeah. I don't know. I feel like grabbing that box out and going through there and whipping them out. But
me too. See what super specials I got.
The Dark Crystal one still have the poster that came with it.
I bet you read Crawl too, weren't you?
I kind of petered off by the mid '80s and getting the super specials.
I wish I still had my Return of the Jedi. I mean, I got the 4-issue miniseries and I got them in trade and all that stuff. I wish I still had that one. But that Temple of the Doom, Indiana Jones one, man, that was like every kid wanted that one when when it came out. Even kids, it wasn't that it was a comic book; it's that it was Indiana Jones, and it was it was I would say it was like on Empire Strikes Back level of a sequel, but everybody wanted that thing.
Oh, that reminds me, Jared. You remember a while back we were talking about that you thought that Die Hard was the best action movie ever?
Mm-hmm.
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
That's not an action movie. That's a cliffhanger.
No, it's an action.
That's not Raiders of the Lost Ark isn't an action movie. It's a cliffhanger.
Tim, who is this person up here?
I don't know, but my wife just was like, "What the fuck is it then?" You caught her attention, man. She was like,
"It's not an action. Action. It's a cliffhanger. It's an old serial. That's what it was designed after.
It's full of action.
No. Action is set pieces and violence and.
It's a set piece in the 30s.
Yeah, but it's not violent enough to be an action movie. It is not violent enough to be an action movie. Sorry.
There's faces melting off, people getting shot by cannons and guns, and Germans.
It's light.
Left and right.
There's too much light comedy in it for it to be an action movie. It's an action comedy. If you want to say it's an action comedy, okay, but it's not an action movie.
It has a tagline of "Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker!" That makes you laugh.
Yeah, that's Die Hard. We're talking. Die Hard is the action movie. Raiders of the Lost Ark isn't. That's what I'm saying.
I'm waiting to see if I was waiting for the comments to light up on that one.
Oh.
Well, I'd also want to point out to Peter Davis said his favorite was Conan the Destroyer and Blade Runner.
All right, the Blade Runner. Here we go. Yep.
We've discussed Blade Runner before because I found it in my collection recently. And Blade Runner Super Special isn't magazine sized; it's comic book sized. I was trying to find out why. Why is that the one Marvel Super Special that's not magazine sized? Nobody remembers. I even checked with Jim Salicrup, the editor of the book, and he has no memory of why that was comic book sized, except that they were trying something different. But it's like why that one is comic book size instead of magazine size is a mystery.
I feel like you're going to like walk through a mall one day or be sitting there at some diner while you're like just playing around, and all of a sudden you're going to bump into somebody, and it's going to match you're not looking for it. That's how these things can happen, Yeah.
Another mystery I've been trying to figure out that everybody has an idea about, but nobody has a real clue is original art. Oh, have you ever seen original art from like the late 70s, early 80s? In original art from the late 70s, and the pages of it, for some reason at the printer, they clipped the pages, either on the top, the bottom, the sides, whatever way. If you look at original, no other period did they at the printer cut part of the page off.
Now, see, here's the thing though. I've seen those with the blue lines where it's got the dashes. Looks like it's supposed to be cut. You know, like if it would be a guide for where to cut it.
Those are just copy. The dashes aren't supposed to be cut.
Okay.
Those are just copy. Those are just guidelines.
That's what I'm asking. Yeah, got you.
Right, let me see. I think I have one back here. Let me see if I can find it. To give you an example.
Yeah, the regular comic adaptation of Blade Runner was only 2-issue series, not 3. That might have something to do with it.
While Jared is gone, Indiana Jones is an action movie.
Yeah, we're all agreeing. Even my wife's over here. My wife was like bouncing around, ready to jump on here. I could tell. Don't you deny? I saw you. Crawl. You know what? I've got. I think I had the adapt. I've got the comic somewhere. I've never seen it.
Okay.
I've never been able to sit through it. I mean,
that movie sucks. That's as plain as I can make it.
Paolo, anything?
It's not.
No, I've never seen Crawl. I don't even remember. I think I remember it being on TV, but I didn't see it.
Beastmaster. I didn't know they had I didn't know Beastmaster had been edited for television, so I got to look it up.
Yeah, all the fantasy movies were edited for television.
So I've realized I've never seen the unedited version of Beastmaster. I feel like I've been robbed.
Even though some of these are considered classics now, do you realize most fantasy movies up until Lord of the Rings weren't very good?
Yeah, I can't find my one clipped page, but I'll tell you what I'm talking about. Here's an unclipped page. It's just got a regular script. What they do is they cut off like this. Usually not on there. They cut off like a corner up here. They cut off a corner on this side. They maybe cut off a corner down the bottom. And there's no rhyme or reason to it. It's not cut the same every time. It's cut different each time. And everybody I've talked to they're like, oh, it might be this, it might be. And one guy even said, the latest I heard was this guy said, oh, Bud Plant told me once how that's because they taped the pages down to the whatever, and then they just cut the tape off. And I'm like, but there's no reason to ever tape a page of comics down when you're printing, because the way you make the printing, what you would do with this, especially in the old days, nowadays, is you would photograph it, and make a negative, or make a negative and a printing plate out of that photograph. But how you photograph it is that they have these big cameras that have these big glass holders on them. Right. And there's felt and a big glass holder. And you just put the page on and close the big glass thing and tilt it up. So there's no reason to tape anything anywhere.
I don't know if it has anything to do with it. It may just be like a lead for you if you're really going to track it down. But I've been at auctions where you'll find these old magazines from the 40s and 50s, and I didn't really pay attention, but they were cut like that. It was for swords. It had something to do with cutting off some of the corners for a sword deal.
But there's someone also that knows that, well, they could fit more. They're trying to fit them on the machine, the camera. I'm like, no, you can't. Cutting off a corner randomly doesn't. Then the camera bed is rectangular.
For the time frame that you're talking about, were most of those done at Quebec War printing?
I think so. I think that was their printer at the time. But it didn't happen in the 60s, didn't happen in the early 70s, didn't happen past like 82 or 83.
Well, I mean, logically, if you could track down somebody that worked at the printing plant at that time, Maybe they have some sort of insight into it.
I've never been able to track anyone down.
Gotcha.
And like I've asked tons of people. Everybody in comics when I've always asked. I've posed that question. Like everybody has some idea of why it maybe happened, but nobody knows.
Gotcha.
Like the latest guy was just a couple weeks ago when I asked him, my original artist. He's the one who said Bud Plant told him about the tape. I didn't have the heart to tell him there's no tape involved. You don't have to tape them.
Had you asked Albert Moy about it?
No, I never asked Albert Moy about it.
I'm just curious. He may know. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows? Like I said, there's no reason to tape anything as far as I know in the printing process. There was there something special about the printing process from those years? But I always wondered that. Because whenever you look at original art from that period, there's always clips.
You could
Matthew Rothko, the Indiana Jones talk earlier was I was saying that Indiana Jones is not an action movie a la Die Hard, and Scott said it is an action movie. I said no, it's a serial. It's there's action in it. It's an action comedy more than it's an action movie. It has more.
Keep digging that hole. Keep digging.
Raiders of the Lost Ark is closer to Romancing the Stone than it is to Die Hard. Would you say Romancing the Stone is an action movie?
Yes.
It's a romantic comedy.
It has elements of it in it, but that's not.
Yeah, it has elements of an action movie. It has elements of romantic comedy. It has just like Indiana Jones.
Stop. I heard enough. Very rarely do I step in and be like, we're drawing the line right here. Romancing the Stone is not a romantic comedy. Romantic comedy is, give me a movie like, I don't know, Along Came Polly and, Sandra Bullock.
Sure.
Yeah.
Is Romancing the Stone an action movie?
No, Romancing the Stone, it is an action movie. It is.
Is it an action movie?
Yes.
No.
They're going over waterfall.
Thank you, Paolo. Which is Raiders of the Ark closer to? Romancing the Stone or Die Hard?
Doesn't matter.
Yes, it does. When we're categorizing things, it does. Categories matter when you're categorizing something.
I think your category is an 80s action movie specifically.
Yeah, which is why it's not considered an action movie anymore. If you showed Raiders of the Lost Ark to any kid today, they wouldn't call it an action movie.
Hold on. Yeah,
They'd call Die Hard an action movie.
Okay, Google. What genre of movie is Romancing the Stone?
Look it up on IMDb. See what it says.
Right.
Romancing the Stone, never leaving the whole heart alone.
I would actually rather watch Romancing the Stone than watch Die Hard.
It is an adventure comedy action romance.
An adventure movie. We could call
adventure comedy
action.
It is it is an adventure movie. I agree, but I don't agree that it's an action movie.
Yeah.
No, it's not an action movie.
According to Google, it is.
According to Paolo,
listen, adventure comedy action romance.
They invented categorizing stuff over in Europe.
Romancing the Stone apparently is not Mink approved here. So.
No.
Die Hard is the greatest action movie, and
I can't believe we're having
the Lost Ark is an adventure movie.
So, what is the difference between an adventure movie and an action movie? If we're going to do this,
evidently, adventure movies are better than action movies.
Yeah, but they're just how much violence is in it and how serious the violence is. That's the difference.
That you could say that would apply to some horror movies, and they're not action movies.
Yeah, I know. You don't have to convince me a horror movie isn't an action movie. You have to convince me Raiders of the Lost Ark is an action movie. You're not doing a very good job.
I can see Raiders of the Lost Ark not being an action movie, but Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade is.
I can't even remember Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, so I don't know.
Because you're too busy watching Die Hard.
He's watching romantic comedy.
I actually want to watch Die Hard. I haven't seen Die Hard in 20
The
years.
Nile and Romance in the Stone is what he's doing. You know,
The Jewel of the Nile is not an adventure movie.
I own
The Jewel of the Nile is a pure comedy movie.
It's
It's a romance comedy. Yeah, it's a romantic comedy.
It's a
Been a while
blasphemous
since I've
movie.
seen that one.
So it features the Karamazov brothers, which is always fun.
Matthew Rasco is getting flashbacks to the last live stream where we debated Kelly's Heroes and Smokey and the Bandit. Smokey and the Bandit is the greatest movie of all time.
No, it's
There
not.
was a pot smoker in the printers using some cut corners as filters.
That makes as much sense as anything else.
All right, guys, we are on the 2-hour mark, and she is pulling dinner out of the oven, so it is time
Alrighty.
to bust it up.
Okay.
But I would
Everybody
look
have a
up
good day.
adventure in action. I might make a chart. I don't know, man. But
You can make. You remember those family tree rock band charts? We should make one of those for like movies.
I still want to do the parody speculator show for comics. I don't care if
We're
it's
going to have to do that.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, I found the real first appearance of Cable.
There we go. We need to do this. I'm going to get on my hat. I'm going to put "I am Comic Tim" by my app. That's all I'm saying.
Worst show ever.
All right. Thanks for everybody for popping in on this snowy night. So everybody have a great weekend. Anybody got any
Bye.
last words for everybody?
Read more
50
comics.
degrees is cold.
Yeah.
I don't break. Later.
Bye.
Bye.